Hi everybody and welcome back to the vlog. So today I thought I would make a video about my experience working at Primark because, you know, my audition experience videos were quite successful, and so I thought I'd talk about a few little more of my experiences as a young 16-year-old. Disclaimer to put in the start if you're one of my past employees that worked there. Overall, I'd say my experience working at Primark was brilliant. It was fine. It definitely wasn't the best job in the world in terms of like the travel that I had to go through. The actual job itself was kind of dull and lonely, but I'll get into that later. But overall I'd say the people that I worked with were lovely, and yeah. I worked at Primark from the ages of 16 to 17 for about a year. It was my first ever paid job. Before there, my only work experience was volunteering at a little charity store, and the store that I worked at was a new store being built in my local sort of shopping town area. So not the town that I lived in, I actually got the train to the next town over to work there. There was previously a Primark store there, but it was one that was being rebuilt, so they were hiring a bunch new people, and I think the actual store that I worked in had about 400 employees or so. I think they about maybe tripled their actual workload. So the store that I worked in was quite a big store, and I was working on Saturdays and Sundays, so I was part of the weekend team. There were 3 teams. There was a night team, the weekend team, and the weekday team, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it's still the same. So getting the job was actually probably the easiest experience out of this whole yearly process. I applied through Indeed, which, if you don't know, is a UK-based job applications website. I got an interview, like a call for an interview, I think that weekend. I think a few days later, and then that weekend I had the interview. I literally remember in the interview they asked me what was an experience trying to get something across or explain something you found difficult, and my example was literally explaining to my GCSE art teacher my final piece and how that was difficult because she didn't get it. Which I really don't think is an answer you should be given points to, just in my opinion. It sort of showed how naive and lacking I was at that time, which maybe says something about Primark, that they hire very naive people. Following the application, go in for about like a 4-hour meeting, so to say, and then following that there was a 4-hour induction where you were given just some general store training. I think we did our till training there, and then you were given your contract and your hours and things like that. And I was given the Department of Health and Beauty. So my experience at working at Primark is kind of different to a lot of other people's, because obviously most people work on clothing departments. Working on health and beauty or socks or homeware or other small departments like that in Primark, they normally only have one person there per shift, which meant that my time there was very lonely. I really didn't know a lot of people at Primark at all, so it was just like at the weekend just 4-hour shifts of just restocking and being very bored and lonely, which is why one of the main reasons why I didn't like the job. So at that time, it's changed now, but at that time health and beauty was the smallest department, and so because of the size of it and the fact that there were few employees on it at one time, it meant that for probably the majority of my year there wasn't an actual department manager. So whenever I come to my department, like at the start of my shift, I wouldn't know who to like be seen to and what I should be doing. Half the time I didn't have a manager there, or I'd have to go to another department manager to say, hey, what exactly do you want me to do? Because it's not, at the end of the day, as just a shop floor employee, it's not really your responsibility to actually decide what should be restocked and whatever, but sometimes I did just have to guess and just go to a stockroom and get whatever and restock it. My job essentially was just restocking. Restocking at Primark, in comparison to like where I work now, was quite easy but also difficult in a weird sort of way. The store had 4 floors. You'd have to take the lift from the first floor to the second floor, and then you'd be in this really like packed full stockroom that was way too small for like this a store with 4 floors. I'd say that stockroom was probably the same size as maybe my living room and my bedroom put together, which if you just imagine like a standard living room and a standard bedroom, like it's not that big for a bunch of stock that's got to cover 4 floors. We wouldn't have the stock that we actually needed because Health and Beauty never had a manager. So our actual orders for what Health and Beauty needed was never done properly. It was either just not done, so the stockroom would be very low on actual stock, or it was done and what we needed wasn't actually there because whoever was doing it didn't know how to do it properly. Or we just have massive amount of stuff, of things that the department didn't need. If something was like out of stock, you'd have to fill up those spaces with something else. You'd try and get what you actually would need on the shelves, but if that's not available, you'd fill up this massive trolley, take it down to the department and just do your best with what you have. And then sort of the most annoying part about that is you'd be doing that for most of your shift. But the thing with Health and Beauty, because it's a small department, it doesn't always need restocking. And so there would be just amounts of time where I'd have to do my job of restocking or recovery, which was basically tidying up after people and making the shelves look full if they weren't full. But you'd have to do that for 4 hours and there'd just be periods of time where I literally couldn't do anything. One good part about Primark and not really having a manager is the fact that toilet breaks are sort of free range. If you need to go to the loo, you can just go upstairs to the staff toilets and just go to the loo. However, because I had no manager, no one was checking how long my toilet breaks were or anything like that. So sometimes if I was bored or tired or just fucking depressed, I would go upstairs and just stay in the toilet for like 15 minutes. A thing called S&D, which I never even found out when I was there, but I think it means soiled and destroyed. So because it's Health and Beauty, so you've got makeup products and cosmetic products and things like that, the rules were if anything was opened, you couldn't sell that product because it was unhygienic, just in case somebody used it. So what would happen with all the S&D is we would all put it away in a big box in a cupboard. But the S&D cupboard was another area of the store that was just sort of unguarded, unmarked. And sometimes me and another girl who worked on the socks department, because they were right next to each other, would just sit there, or sometimes if there was another staff member on the Health and Beauty department, we would sit there and just maybe chill out for a second because no one was checking on what we were doing, and if we didn't need to do work, then we weren't occupied, so we needed to do something. So the only department you know about is your department, and the most frustrating thing with working in a store that has 4 floors, you don't know what any of the other departments are doing. And half the time, say if there's swimwear or Christmas stuff or accessories, those departments will be moved about all the time. So if a customer asked you where, say, the Christmas range was, originally it would be right next to the front door, but no, they've moved it to the 2nd floor. What? No one has informed anyone about that. So if a customer asked you something, you just really had to make something up or try and find a manager to ask them, because the managers would always know. They would know everything. Nothing was communicated to us. I get the train to go to Primark, and it was my first year of A-levels and it was my first ever job. I didn't really expect to want to work that much because at this time I lived a 40-minute walk away from the actual train station and a 40-minute walk back, so it could take me a long time to get to Primark, and there was still like a walk after train station on the other end. So it was a case of, it took me a long time to get there, and it also cost me money to actually get to this job, which meant I didn't have the time and I couldn't afford to actually do a lot of overtime, especially not after my college days, because even my college was, I think, a 16-minute train journey there, so I couldn't like come after college because it was just, I would just be extremely exhausted, wouldn't be able to do any of my work. Overtime, couldn't even think about it because it was just an impossible ask, and they knew that because they knew I was a student and they knew I had to get the train here, so they knew my situation. But constantly it would just be like calls and questions when I was there if I could do overtime on certain days, and I said no because I explained that I have to do these things. I'm a full-time student. You knew that when you employed me. My issue with them asking me to do overtime for my department was the fact that the rota was structured so that one person would do it. That means that you assume that you are capable to have one person there at each time. So at the end of the day, if you need more people there, hire more people. When you do your induction at Primark, they get you to fill out an availability form. On that availability form you put your shift hours and any other hours you're available to do for overtime. And in theory, you're not supposed to ask anybody to do hours that are outside of what you've put on your availability because you're not available. And all the hours I put on there were my shift hours. So every single time they asked me to do overtime, I would get murked. And there was this one time when I think it was a Sunday, I was restocking some some cotton pad things, and a manager from another department who worked on our floor, so she was kind of close to our department, the manager who I did not like, and not many people liked at all because she was quite rude. She came over and asked if I could do some overtime for the following week, and I was like, no. Because I'm not available, it takes this amount of time, and I'm a full-time student. There's other things I have to do. I just said no. I said it politely, and I explained why, and she was like, what? Her answer was along the lines of, so you're selfishly choosing to not do overtime and help out your other employees. And then she just walked away. And I'm like, excuse me? Don't try and guilt trip me for not doing overtime. I'm sorry, but my contract is an 8-hour contract, right? I'm a part-time employee. This job is not my life, and I do not owe a responsibility to the corporation of Primark that I'm sure is doing fine now without me. You know, probably the only person who I strongly disliked at Primark. Everyone else was fine. Everyone else was lovely. Everyone else sort of got it. They just wanted me to do my thing. I came in, I left, it was fine. And the job overall was kind of dull, but some funny stuff did happen at Primark. Within my first month, I think it was, of working there. Early on in the day, it was only 1 o'clock on a Saturday, and I walk over, I see one of the other employees is standing at my department. She's looking really shocked, she's looking shook, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? I walk over to her aisle that she's in. It's a nail aisle with all the fake nails are at. There's just a bunch of puke on the floor, just a bunch of vomit all over the place, and she's like, oh yes, like a 12-year-old was stuck on the floor, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's great, what do I do? And we didn't know what to do because we were both quite new, and so we asked one of the managers who was just passing, and she was like, okay, you, to the other employee, go call for a cleaner or get somebody to call for a cleaner, and you just wait by it because there's no sign. So I had to stand by this puke for about half an hour until the cleaner turned up. Just to say, hey, please don't step here, there's vomit on the floor. And it just stank. The whole experience, it was making me gag, you know what I mean? It wasn't fun. You're not allowed to take water onto the shop floor, so unless you had an S&D cupboard like my department did, you can't just go off and have a sip of water for your whole shift, which is bad. We didn't get a discount at Primark. The only time we ever got a discount was at Christmas. You got 10% off. However, you had to use that in your own store. It was so annoying because I can't even remember why I did this. I did my Christmas shopping, my Primark Christmas shopping at a different store, tried to use a discount, and they're like, no, you can only use this in your own store. And I'm like, what's the point? That was my experience working at Primark. I worked there for a year, and then I got the hell out of there as soon as an opportunity for a higher paid job that was closer to my home was available. But no tea and no shade to the Primark that I worked at. Overall, it was a good experience. I'm grateful for the job. And thank you for watching the video. I'm going to see the musical Heathers at the Theatre Royal Haymarket on Monday, and so I'm going to be vlogging it. If you're interested in that, please subscribe. And if you want to see the show, please check out my vlog to hear my opinions. Also, if you like this sort of sit-down experience type of video, I have a playlist on my channel for my drama school audition experiences, which if you enjoy this video, you should enjoy some of them. If not, please like, subscribe, check out some of my vlogs and my latest videos, and have a great day. See you soon. Thank you.